Hi, everybody. Tommy Young here, former referee. I just want you to know you're with Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Hey, this is Jimmy Street, host of the Live and in Color with Wolfie D podcast. Hear the life and times of professional wrestler Wolfie D. From his time in the territories with PG-13 to his time in WWE, ECW, WCW, TNA, and more. Nothing is off limits and nothing will be held back. Thanks again for tuning in. Here he is, Wolfie D.
All right, folks, welcome to Live and in Color with Wolfie D and my man Jimmy across the street. And that is a 1, 2, a welcome, a 1, 2, 3 for this episode, because we got one of the greatest people to ever count to 3, and we're talking about Tommy Young. Jimmy.
Yeah. Yes, I'm stoked. And I'm saying stoked more now. Everybody knows
that's
part of it's like it's part of the lexicon. But no, I mean, I booked this one, right? I mean, I'm very, like, when you bring someone to the table, you want to bring, like, hey, Wolfie, I think I can get us this guy, whatever.
Right.
But when you bring Tommy Young, man, come on.
Yeah.
That shows you I'm in this to win this, brother. So
you got some good ones under your belt, bro.
Well, I'm trying, brother. I'm trying, man. I'm trying to be, learn the ways of the Booker man, So
But yeah, the 1, 2, 3. He's not just the false count guy either, like these guys. That's all the guys are in there for now, is to make the false counts. So that's really
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
false
yeah.
counts.
1,
You know what
2, 2.5.
I think it was Matt Mania was the game where it was Tecmo Matt Mania, where the referee would go 1, 2, 3. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. I didn't, but now I do. Yes, I definitely remember that.
I used to love that, man. I used to love that game, first of all, but you spend all my money that I could get when I was younger we'd go walk up to the bowling alley, Brunswick Bowling Alley in Antioch, Tennessee, next to the Quick Sack. If anybody's from around there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I never really, I went bowling there, but I'd always walk up there, me and my buddies, to go play the wrestling games, man, or video games. But usually it was wrestling, because they had the can't remember the name of it. It was one of the first real good ones, though, like the Big Boss Man, Hulk Hogan.
WrestleMania, I think, is what.
Probably. I think that might have been the name of it.
Yeah, that was a great game.
Out of that. And then the other bowling alley, Tusculum Bowling Alley on Knowlesville Road there, had the Matt Mania that I loved the most. That's still a great game.
Matt Mania is great, man. Yeah, it's absolutely great. Yeah. My brother and I, we wore that out. We wore the WrestleMania game out. We went to the Bristol Mall there, and at the Bristol Mall, there was 2 floors. It was just your classic regular 80s, 90s mall, you know what I mean? And then downstairs near the theater, there was an arcade, and that arcade probably took a small fortune from me and my brother just because of all the games we played in there. And man, I tell you, I love both of those games. I love the Turtles game, the X-Men game. The wrestling game was the bomb, man. I loved it.
Well, let's see what Mr. Tommy Young has to say. And, I'm going to go ahead and do it one more time, but I really think you should dub over me here and give me the 1, 2, 3. We'll be back in
after these messages.
Hey folks, to get your official Live and in Color with Wolfie D merchandise, go to ProWrestlingTees.com/Live Wolfie D. Check it out.
If you're listening to Live and in Color with Wolfie D on Apple Podcast and like what you're hearing, go ahead and leave a 5-star rating. And while you're at it, write a review. Tell us what you liked. Tell us what you'd like to hear in the future. It's very important to us and always appreciated. Thanks again.
How you doing, Tom?
Good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. Recovering from hip replacement.
Oh, I had one of those. They had to replace my left hip.
Yeah,
Wow.
Like all the boys and anybody in the business, it's always the left hip,
Well, the toughest part, about getting that done is, going through the rehab. Because, they put mine in about 10 years ago, and thank God they did, because I've been perfect ever since.
That's
I
good.
mean, before I had the surgery, I was walking around like Quasimodo. I mean,
Wow.
it was bad. I mean, and it's funny because I'm left-handed, and when I used to dive over the guys and, hit the mat and count, I was landing on my right hip, and it was my left hip that had to be replaced.
Huh.
So my right hip must be
from
bionic
arthritis?
or something. I don't know. What's that?
I said, was it from arthritis that they had to replace it?
No, I don't know what it was. I'm all I know is it broke down and I could hardly walk, and they replaced it, and I've been fine ever since.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Mine was something called avascular necrosis, meaning my hip joint wasn't getting enough blood flow, and the ball joint there, the bone was dying. So that's where all my pain was coming from. Plus the cartilage was all jacked up too. But yeah, it was crazy. But it's getting better now. About 5 weeks out of surgery, and I'm on the cane and not the walker no more. I can take a few steps by myself and everything. So it's getting better.
Are you heavy, or are you light, heavy, trim? What are you?
Out of shape would be one, but no, I'm 6'1", about 250, which is usually about my normal weight. Just my belly's got a little bigger.
So you're big, and that's extra. That's extra on your hip. Yeah, I'm nowhere near that size. I'm pretty close to what I was when I reffed. I was very, very meticulous about not putting on too much weight. I've always been concerned about that. So that helped that I wasn't all that heavy. But in my case, it was a very successful operation. I'm glad I did it. And it's been about 10 years now, and so far, so good.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. And you were looking great, man. I thought you looked great the other day, brother. I was like, that's Tommy Young. He could still do it.
No, I wish I could, but I can't, because I would get more calls to do stuff, but I just, it's not worth it. I mean, what's his name? The big guy, Thompson.
Conrad.
Conrad. Yeah, he called me because he booked me in a show in Schenectady, Illinois, about 4 or 5 years ago that was very successful.
That's awesome.
When they had the Fan Fest here in Charlotte, first with Greg Price and then later on with Marty out of New York, it was just in the one hotel and maybe 300, 400, 500, 600 people. But that thing in Ohio, Illinois, they had to use 3 hotels to bring everybody. I mean, it was packed.
Wow.
I've never seen, and I haven't been to that many fan fests, just the ones in Charlotte mainly. So that was different for me. But I was very impressed with that. And I'm a little heavy now. I mean, Lent just started. I'm Catholic, and I like to give up stuff, even though I'm an old fart. So it's trimming me down. But like I said, if I would referee, I would get more bookings. And he called me last year and asked me to do the Flair comeback match in Nashville. Yeah. And I was very flattered that he asked me. I don't know if it was the champ that told me to do that. And incidentally, whenever I say the champ, I'm talking about Ric Flair. I don't call him anything but what to me he is, and that's the champ.
Yeah, amen.
But anyway, I back then I was 75. I'm 76 now. I'm 2 years older than the champ is, and the artificial hip, and I still got the 25% disability in my neck, which was the reason that I was knocked out of wrestling. Right.
Let me ask you about that. So it was Rotundo and Tommy Rich in a match, and Tommy shoved you. Was that supposed to happen? Was he supposed to throw you down?
He was supposed to shove me. Okay. See, this wasn't even a finish. Right. This was a spot in the match.
Right.
Corny set it up, Jim Cornette, and they wanted to see in the NWA, if you throw somebody over the top rope, it was automatic DQ.
Yeah.
So they wanted to work a deal where Mike dumped Tommy over the top rope, but they didn't want me to see it, of course. It was just a spot during the match. So what we were supposed to do, and you can pull it up on YouTube. I think the match is still on there.
Yeah, I actually just watched it. I just watched it about 30 minutes ago.
Yeah, Tommy is, making a comeback, pounding Mike on the ropes, and I'm like, come on, Tommy, come on, get off him and get up. And finally I have to pull him off him, and I'm walking him back, which is what I'm supposed to be doing, because while I'm walking him back, Mike is getting up to his feet, and Tommy's kind of looking over my shoulder at Mike. And when Mike gets, get all the way up, Tommy's supposed to just, get out of my way, just shove me in the back, which keeps me going the same way I was going, But if you notice, he puts his size 15 foot out, and he trips me. And I was walking him backwards, as you can see in the tape, and by that time we're pretty close to the ropes. And when he tripped me, that completely knocked me. I didn't expect the trip, and I lost my balance. I'm falling forward and I'm falling down at the same time. So when something like that is going to happen, almost anybody's going to try to get their arms up to protect their head, their face, Well, I was too close to the ropes to get my arms up in time. They went through the ropes, and I took the middle rope right between the eyes, that indentation that's, a little lower than the forehead, and where it's just perfect. I mean, a little higher, it would have slid off, the top of my head. A little lower, it might have broken my jaw or something, but nothing like what it did. But I took it right between the eyes, and all my weight was coming down on it, and it's just a bad whiplash, hyperextension. And next thing I know, I heard this awful, and what the hell was that? And we were doing TV, so we had a studio audience. We were doing the taping at the Center Stage in Atlanta. And I remember going down, and the whole room was just humming. And I remember I was facing the audience, away from the guys, and I knew immediately I was hurt badly. I didn't know how badly, but I knew I was hurt because I didn't feel a thing. There was no pain at all, because I didn't feel anything. And I never want to be in that situation again for just a few moments, or I don't know how long it was, 1-2 minutes maybe. I don't know. I was totally quadriplegic. I was looking at my body, but I wasn't in it. It's the strangest feeling. I don't ever want to experience it again. But and what happened? You don't see it on the tape. He trips me, and I go out of the picture. And a little before that, Kevin Sullivan and Jim Ross were doing the commentary. The lights dimmed. I don't know what that problem was.
That too is like, it almost seemed when I was watching, I was like, the lights went out or whatever before it happened, and then it did it again and stuff. And when it happened before, I was like, that's kind of a bad omen right there.
Well, I don't know if that was the reason that I missed the rope. I don't know. It all happened so fast. I got a small settlement from the building for the lights, but anyway, it paralyzed me, and goodbye career.
Man, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go back for a second. We got Tommy Young on the show. A lot of people say one of the greatest, if not the greatest, referee in pro wrestling history. That's a lot of people will say that about you.
I will.
Yes, Jimmy definitely will.
Thank you.
And see, I came up watching Memphis, and that's where I got my break. So Jerry Calhoun.
Oh, Jerry's area, yeah. Good old Jerry.
TBS.
It's okay to be wrong sometimes, Wolfie.
I know, right?
Jerry's great.
It's the whole Lance Russell and Gordon Solie argument.
Yeah.
On
Bob Caudle for me, though. Bob Caudle for me.
Now, those two, Gordon Solie and Bob Caudle, I love them both. Two of the greatest guys I've ever known, and two of the greatest commentators. I think Bob Caudle is still with us. I think he's in Raleigh, and I loved him to death. Great guys. Gordon had a little bit of a problem with the bottle, but that did not cause any trouble with his commentary. But great guys, both of them. Love them to death.
If you don't mind, I want to go back to that match for just a second, but let's finish that one off. Here's what I saw too, and I was like, "Oh dang!" Rotunda, I guess, didn't know you were really hurt, and when he covers Tommy, and then he kicks you in the butt really hard, I was like, "Oh man!" And then he came over and tried to grab you. I'm like, "No, don't touch him."
What actually happened, guys? What actually happened? I didn't see it, of course, because I was facing the audience. But what must have happened was when Tommy shoved me. See, Tommy didn't even know he hurt me. He had no idea. He never turned around. He wasn't supposed to. He was looking at Mike. So when he did that, he must have stepped between me and Mike. So Mike didn't see it either because Tommy was in the way. Neither one of them knew what happened.
Yeah.
Because you'll see that they continue to wrestle.
Yeah.
And I'm laying there, and Kevin's saying, my gosh, we're getting ready to go into total darkness here because the lights got even darker.
Yeah.
And anyway, they, I was supposed to be there for the count because, like I said, Tommy shoves me and then he goes after Mike. Mike dumps him over the top rope. Well, they get back in the ring and then Mike covers Tommy and there ain't no Tommy Young. And he said, Tommy, get over here. And you see him boot me in the ass there. Yeah. And I'm trying to whisper because I don't want to expose the profession.
Right.
Like Mike, I can't move. So Mike, you see him get off of Tommy and he rolls me over on my back because I'm laying on my side. I'm facing the audience. And he rolls me over on my back. He said, what's the matter? I says, I don't know. I'm hurt bad. And he didn't know what to do. He goes back to Tommy and starts fighting with him. And, they're watching these little TV sets. I think they call them monitors because, they're watching the matches back in the control room and everybody's, what's the matter with Tommy? He's not moving. He's not flopping around. He's just laying there. So they're starting to catch on. Something's wrong. So Mike Adkins, who is no longer in wrestling, and my old buddy Nick Patrick, they came out together, and Mike got in the ring to finish the match. They told him what he had to do, just count out, I think it was count out Tommy. I don't even know who the hell got counted out. I don't know.
It was Tommy.
But anyway, and Nick came over to me, and I said, Nick, get me away from those guys. So he slid me over to the apron, Well, they finished up, and and by that time, the booker was the champ, Ric Flair. He was the booker. He came out, and I was sitting up in the apron, and he said, what is it, Tommy? I said, champ, I'm in bad shape. Because the feeling slowly started coming back. A couple times, I think you see me kind of like raise my head because Mike had rolled me over on my back. So I was flat on my body's saying, bleep you, we ain't going anywhere. And I'm not going to talk gutter on this phone. I don't want to do that. But anyway, so they sat me up and I said, well, let's get out of here. So I went to jump off the apron and my legs just collapsed under me. Fortunately, I think it was Mike and Nick. They both caught me and I got out of there. And we keep back then we kept a chiropractor on standby because a lot of guys have trouble with their backs and necks and everything. And he looked me over and they said I was white as a ghost. And he said he's in bad shape. He's got to go to the hospital. So anyway, I'm sitting there and the ambulance comes and they're coming in with the gurney. So I get up to walk to the ambulance because by now I'm not feeling that bad. The strength has come back. Well, anyway, whoa, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be moving. I said, brother, we've left the ring and walked all the way back here. I've done all sorts of moving. Well, you shouldn't have been moved at all. And they wanted me to lay down. They strapped me down to the gurney, and all the guys were being real supportive because it was clear I was hurt. Right. But I didn't even know how badly. Anyway, my neck was destroyed. I had to have the same surgery that my old friend Arn Anderson had to have. because you see, there's two ways they can operate on your neck. They can go in through the back like they had to do me and Arn, or they can go to the front. And a number of guys, unfortunately, broken necks are rather common in this business. Lita, the girl wrestler, she had one. A number of guys have broken their necks, but if you can operate through the front, you can come back. But in the case of me and Arn, they simply had to remove all that protective vertebrae that protects your spine. So I don't have that anymore. And Arn doesn't have it either, and that's why he had to quit. But to make a long story short, I don't really harvest any bitterness towards Tommy, but he was careless. His carelessness ended my career and cost me, I don't know, at least $1 million in lost wages. I was only 42 when this happened. Wow. And my old buddy Earl Hebner, gosh, he repped into his 70s. And if you really want to talk about who the greatest referee of all time is, I really think you have to give it to Earl. I mean, he's been through so much. When they did that brilliant twin brother gimmick with Hogan and Andre, that sucker was, I couldn't believe how great a gimmick that was. And even though Earl is trimmer than David, I still thought it was David in the ring. I had no idea it was Earl because, Earl was here with me in WCW and they approached him and he couldn't tell me. He couldn't take a chance because I might slip and say something and, so I had no idea Earl was going. And when I saw it, oh, wow, that was great. And, and Earl came in and beat the hell out of David and was pretty stiff with him. But, David, bless his heart, he's passed away. But Earl and I still stay in touch, and he'll be here in Charlotte for the Fan Fest in August, and I'll drop by and see him there. They won't be using me because I won't get in the ring and ref, and believe me, I'd like to, because, guys, the people are so nice to me now, it's unreal. And let's face it, I didn't get that during my career. Right. I mean, they called me everything but a human being, and they threw stuff at me. I had my window broken out in my car and assaulted. And 90% of the things that would happen to me after I walked by and somebody belted me in the back of the head or something. Nobody would confront me straight on, but when you walk by, wham, somebody would do something. And sometimes the security would catch them and sometimes they wouldn't. But it was just, it's a very difficult situation like that. So anyway, it's not worth it for me to get in the ring anymore because like I was telling you about Conrad before you cut me off, I'm just having fun with you guys. I told them, they offered me a real good amount of money, fly me into Nashville and everything, and it was probably the champ that wanted me for that because I did most of his matches when he was in his prime, and Charles Robinson, he did the matches when the champ was older. I told Robbie, I said, you got to be the junior nature boy. That's something special. But you never got to rep the champ in his prime like I did. Yeah. But I told Mr. Thompson, I said, I'd love to do it, but I don't think I'm up to it. And he probably figured, well, yeah, right, you'll do it. And so he called me back later, and I decided no. Because, see, if I stand up for long periods of time, guys, my legs get numb. And I could get hurt in there. And I mean, you have to be realistic. I don't belong in the ring anymore. And God knows the champ was taking a chance. And if I know him, he'll have another retirement match. Exactly. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. Exactly. But anyway, I suggested, I said, why don't you hire Earl? And they didn't want Earl. They wound up hiring the kid out of New York. Rudy? What am I? Mike Chioda, I think his name is.
Chioda, yeah.
I'm a big fan of his. Yeah,
he's great.
Great referee. Great referee. I don't even think I know. I may have met him a couple of times when I went to their shows, but I really don't know Mike. But he's as good a referee as I've ever seen, and they used him, and that was that. So, they offered me money, but it just wasn't worth it. I'm sorry.
Now that you say it, I do remember seeing him because I was actually on that show. I was in the Battle Royal, the Bunkhouse Battle Royal, and then they had me as an agent for one of the matches as well. And I do remember now seeing Kyoto there because I knew him from my little short stint with WWF back in the day. But Kyoto, yes, he's an extremely good referee.
Really? So how was the crowd? Was it completely full?
Oh, it was. I mean, if I didn't see no empty seats, I'm sure there were some here and there. But being that,
excuse me, is that the same building that the thing between Steamboat and Flair and Terry? Same building.
No, that was the municipal. The municipal is where they did the Nashville. Is that the?
Flair's
it was
municipal.
You're right, Wolfie. My bad, dude. You were there. What am I talking about?
Yeah, and not to mention though. I mean, that's where I grew up going to watch wrestling. Besides the fairgrounds, Memphis stuff. But when the WWF and WCW and all that would come to town, it was at the municipal. But yeah, it was. To answer that question, it was full. And let me tell you something. I've said this 100 times since then. I did not stay in the back and watch the monitor. I wanted to go out where the people were because you cannot explain, watching that match on TV. If you expected to see Ric Flair go out there and have his best match instead of his retirement match, you're not a fan of pro wrestling. That's not what you were expecting. But the electricity in that building was incredible. I was standing there, Rey Mysterio and me were standing over into the crowd, and it was like we both were like, yeah, I'm not going back there to watch this. I'm staying right here because the people were up and with him, and even though his chops were, I heard the match was not good. It was not a good match. I heard that from Jeff, if it wasn't for Jeff and
Jay Lethal and Andrade,
yeah, Jay Lethal. I mean, it would have been a lot different, man. But they just old school healed on him and, tried to take care of Flair. But in the arena, he was over like $1 million, man. It was cool.
Well, he's as legendary as they come.
Oh, yeah.
And we were very close friends for many years. We're not close anymore, but I mean, he's gone now. He's been gone for a long time, and he was in Atlanta. Now I understand he's down in Tampa, maybe. He's in Florida, I believe, now. Okay. And but anyway, I probably should have done it because if I'm right, and you were there, so you tell me, wasn't it a deal when Flair had his figure 4 leg lock on Jeff? And they were both like laying there, and the referee had been knocked out. Wasn't the referee knocked out?
Yes,
I can't remember.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
And another referee went in and did the 1, 2, 3, or I could have done that. I should have gone. Yeah, because he told me that we can work around that. But anyway, it's history. So I'm glad everybody's okay. And we had the Fan Fest not too long after that, and Jeff was there, and I talked to him about it. And he said the match could have been better, but we got by with it. And Jeff's a hell of a talent. So he's always going to be good that way.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, I'm forgive me for yapping so much.
No.
I get carried away, but I want to give you a chance to ask questions. So this is your deal,
I want to know this. Okay, so, you kind of known for, the way you would sell the moves and the facial expressions and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so, I'm not trying to get you to knock anybody at all. That's not what my show's about. I just want your opinion on, I don't know if you've seen, there's a girl referee in the AEW, and she gets a lot of heat because she, in my opinion, she oversells everything. Have you seen her, and what do you think?
I almost never watch. I didn't even watch it when I was in it.
You're right.
Well, it was my living,
right.
And I'd have people over sometimes and be turning the TV station, and there's a match, and I'm in it. And I just keep right on going. Hey, Tommy, you're on. I said, well, when I first saw myself on TV, hey, I'm a TV star. Everybody wants to be on TV. Want to have their 15 minutes of fame, or so to speak. Yeah. Well, it's just like anything else. I mean, after a while, you think, I'm on TV, so what? I mean, big deal. I mean, I'm used to it. It's not that big of a deal. I never took myself that seriously, and I still don't. I mean, to be perfectly frank with you, I am a failed wrestler because I broke in to wrestle guys, and just by accident started repping. They didn't have a rep one night. I volunteered. I said, scratch the match, I'll do it. And you know, when I was wrestling, I was about as useful as a screen door in a submarine. I mean, I wasn't trained properly, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was left-handed, which doesn't help, even though Harley Race was left-handed, and he's one of the greatest. And but as a referee, for some reason, I knew everything. I knew how to handle the people. Nobody ever trained me. I never watched referees. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to revolutionize refereeing. I never thought it was too stupid to do that. It just happened. It was just by accident. And people used to tell me, boy, you must have been one hell of an athlete. Did you play a lot of sports in high school? I said, brother, I was a nerd. I didn't hang out with the athletes. I hung out with the other nerds. I played football in my freshman year in high school and quit that before the season was over. The only thing I ever really did was play some golf in high school, and I wasn't even great at that. It was just something that happened, but I got into it. It was fun to me. So many guys didn't want to rep. Nick wanted to wrestle. His dad was Jody Hamilton. He was one of the bolos here in the Mid-Atlantic, and he wrestled. But Nick had bad knees, so Nick had to ref. But almost nobody wanted to just ref. Teddy Long, he ref for a little while. He was my deputy, but he wanted to manage. He wanted to move on. Me, I thought, Tommy, you are tailor-made for this, and you really don't have much competition. You can't make a lot of money. I mean, and referees should make a lot of money. They're a necessary evil. But I mean, I knew that I was good at it and that I would probably have a good future in this business. So I never wanted to do anything but ref. I didn't want to wrestle, didn't want to manage, didn't want to commentate. I just wanted to ref. And I always knew that with the style I had, because I worked very close to the wrestlers, and I would catch the elbow and the nose every so often and come home at night, take off my clothes and have bruises on my body. But that was just, part of the, that's paying your dues, I always wanted to be there for the wrestlers close by. If a guy was having trouble saying a spot to a guy, I would tell him, look at me like you're talking to me, and then say the spot. The people think you're talking to me, but the guy will hear the spot. Stuff like that, because I would tell any referee, and a lot of them are nice enough to come up to me, put me over, like, oh, God, I always wanted to meet you. And I tell them, it is our job to make the wrestler's job easier. That's the sign of a good referee, because, we're not directly responsible for bringing people into the building. The wrestlers are. And so the pressure's on them. So you want to make it as easy for them as you can, because the bigger the crowd, the more money you make.
Right. And, you're talking about you wanted to referee and all that. You really, if you think about it, I think you made a really good choice because of the longevity that referees have. Look how long the referees last everywhere. I mean, they're fixtures. They really don't swap referees in and out that often,
Well, my career didn't last too long. It was 15 years. I started right at the beginning of 75 when the IWA formed back in 75. That's when I got into it full time. And right till the end of 89, the actual injury occurred. I will never forget that date, November the 28th. 1989. So I had right at 15 years. But look at Earl. Earl is the same age as Ric Flair. I'm 76, so that makes Earl 74. He's only recently quit. He was reffing into his early 70s. And so do we talking 40 years at least, maybe 45. Referees in general don't get hurt. What happened to me was just a freak injury, but it happened. But by the grace of God, I'm okay. I just had to quit wrestling. I just had to do it. I had to quit.
Yeah. Let me ask you this too. So when I broke into Memphis, the referee was Frank Morrell. I know you know the French Angel. Frank
I know
Morrell.
Frank. Yeah, nice.
So I rode with him all the time and things. But when I first broke in, he just didn't like me and Jamie for some reason. I don't know what it was. But and I don't know if you've ever heard how he used to be, but you literally had to shoot to get him to turn his back and get your heat behind his back and all that, and he'd make you shoot with him because he didn't want to look bad. Do you have anything like that where a wrestler would just something they would do that would annoy you? Because I know some wrestlers like that. They don't want the heat on them on certain things. And did you ever have any things like that?
Hell yes. Good Lord. We had a guy named Bill White. He's still around. Mm-hmm. But this guy always was acting like a complete idiot. And he wouldn't work with me. He would insist on pulling the guy around. He wouldn't let me catch him. Never let me catch him. And, you got to feel the people. That's one thing I was good about. You don't want to disgust them. Yeah. Pissing them off is one thing. Disgusting them is something else. That's going to keep them from coming back. Right. And but if he didn't have the psychology, he always worked underneath. And this guy was one hell of a worker. He was really a good performer in the ring. He could have been main event. I don't think he ever was. Now, maybe he went to other territories and he was, but I don't think so. But he would, and he would also screw around with the guys in the ring that he's working with. We'd have new guys come into the territory. We had a guy, I remember him, he's probably still around. His name was Mike Miller, and he came in to work underneath. And I told he was going to work with Bill White that night. He was new to the territory, didn't know Bill. And I said, now, Mike, you got to watch this guy. He gets cute. And Mike figured, well, man, you're ribbing me. And I wasn't ribbing him. And I said, Mike, you'll think he's going to lock up with you. And the next thing you know, he shoots an arm drag and you go flying across the ring. You don't even know it's coming, Bill would do that stuff and he would aggravate people. And he got slapped around a few times by some people. Yeah. I won't mention names, and I really probably shouldn't have mentioned that because he wasn't a wuss or anything like that. Don't misunderstand me. But he screw around in the ring and play ribs on people. Do it in the dressing room. Don't do it in the ring. Yeah. And other guys gave me trouble. I used to have trouble with Greg Valentine. Really? We I don't know. We didn't mesh. I don't know what it is. The Iron Sheik was another one. But these guys it was more of a personal thing with these guys. And I mean, I made peace with all of them. Greg's all right. He's still around. I think the Sheik has passed away. Yeah. But when he was here, he had heat with everybody and almost got into a fight in the dressing room with Swede Hansen. And, big, tough guy. Everybody loved him. And, but Kaz, we called him Kaz, the Sheik. He was, he's passed away, try to say something nice if you're going to say it. I get it. But I had some trouble with a few people, but in general, not that much. It was a business and guys trying to get along, you want to stay in the territory as long as you can and make money. It was mostly camaraderie. There were very few poor incidents, very few bad incidents.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make a hot tag here to Jimmy so he can join the conversation.
Yeah, well, thank you for the hot tag, Wolfie D. And obviously, I'll say it many times as I need to. I do feel like you're the greatest, Tommy. And I said that to you when we met the other day at the Fan Fest. That was a thrill to me. Got to see Charles Robinson and Rudy Charles come in, which Wolfie's a big buddy with Rudy. But here's what I'm saying. You were so good, and here's why I think you are the best. Now, we were talking about Earl. One of the things that would sort of bug me about Earl was his delivery when he would drop to the mat. So it would almost seem like he was dropping, and that should be his 1, and then he would count 3, right? So it was like a hard drop. You were so good, you would smoothly hit the mat and then count the 3. It was like a timing thing to where Earl kind of seemed like he was almost counting 4. You know, do you notice anything like that ever with other referees?
No, I didn't. I really didn't. And in all fairness to Earl, you got to remember, I wrestled first. So
Sure.
It's a lot easier when you've already been in the business.
Right.
Now, in Earl's case, same as David, they never wrestled before. David started first. He was my deputy when I would come into Richmond because they both lived in that area. Mm-hmm. And David was first, and Earl was actually, he'd do a little bit of announcing, and he had a ring and a bus. He drove around, set the ring up, and then, of course, David went to that little territory in Tennessee for a while that Mulligan and I think it was Dickie Murdoch. I think the two, no, that was Texas. This was Flair and Mulligan. They put this thing together in Tennessee for a while. It didn't go long, but David went with them. But when that dissolved, David went with McMahon when he was first starting. And that was really a disappointment. I mean, David was with Vince McMahon from day one. Mm-hmm. And why Vince would let David go unceremoniously the way he did, I will never understand. And David was never the same after that. I know it was something to do with selling merchandise, but I just don't. I was really disappointed because David was with Vince from day one when he was first starting, and you know, loyalty means something in this business because there isn't a whole lot of loyalty in this business. Yeah. There never was, and maybe there's more of it now. I've been gone so long. I hope there is, but David was never the same. David has passed away, and Earl to this day is still bitter about that. They offered to bring Earl back to WWE when he was with TNN, and they were going to put him in the Hall of Fame and everything, and Earl wouldn't go. And I said, Earl, I know they're idiots, but hey, that's where the money is. Earl, go back. That's where the money. I don't care, Tommy. The hell with them. I don't want nothing to do with them. I mean, he just thumbed his nose on him, and you got to give him a lot of credit for that. Yeah. Are there any referees in the Hall of Fame?
Man, I don't know.
I can't think of any. Actually. No. It's a rip. I mean, it's ridiculous, honestly. You know, I mean, excuse me, I'm sorry. If there was one in there, I would think it would probably be Joey Morella. Right. Monsoon's boy, you know. Right.
Met him one time. He was okay. And I think he got in an auto accident or something. And that's a shame. He may be in, but I don't really know about people in the Hall of Fame in New York. I know that Bobby Fulton inducted me into his Hall of Fame of Ohio last year. That was kind of nice.
That is awesome. Yeah.
And I really don't care whether I get in any Hall of Fame or not. Like I said, I just never took myself that seriously, and I never will.
Yeah. Well, I think the Midnight Express need to go in, and I think you need to go in, and definitely Earl needs to go in. I mean, there's so many guys. Nick Patrick, like you said, you know, and hell, Jerry Calhoun has got my vote too. But what I mean by that is there really needs to be.
Excuse me. Who? Did you say Jerry? Oh. No, wait a minute. Forgive me, and I don't know you guys very well, but I'm. And by the way, guys, I want you to know I'm on a closed caption phone because people always told me, "You blind bastard, you can't see nothing, you queer son of a bitch," and all that. But the simple truth is, I tell people, "No, folks, I can see fine, but I can't hear worth a damn."
Right.
And people would, I'd kibitz with the people before the matches, and and oftentimes these ladies would offer to give me their glasses, and I'd go to take them, and they'd pull them back. But once in a while, they'd give them to me, and I'd put the glasses on, and I'd turn around and walk into the ropes and take a bump, and just to have, you're trying to have as much fun with the people as you can because they're going to wind up hating you probably with all those dusty finishes I used to do.
Oh No kidding.
And so I used to have fun with that. And but yeah, so if I hesitate when you ask me a question, it's only because I didn't understand it, and I'm looking at the captioning and what she had said. There's a slight delay. So if there's a slight delay in this, that's what I'm doing. So I just want you to know that. Yeah.
No problem. Yeah, I just said Jerry Calhoun, the longtime Memphis referee. You know who he is. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do I know Jerry? Do I know Jerry Calhoun? Because I don't recognize that name.
Oh, really?
It was let's see, I guess the late 70s and then all the 80s pretty much. He was like Lawler's best buddy too. So
yeah, they were best friends, kind of like you and Flair for a while, you know.
Yeah.
So
well, talking earlier, I got away from your question about the girl referee.
Yeah.
I did turn the TV the other night, and I did see a girl referee. Aren't there girl referees in WWE too?
I think so.
I think so too. And I thought, I don't like that. I mean, even in a girls' match, I can't see a girl referee, but what the heck. But yeah, she was in there. And I often thought, gosh, how would I feel if I had competition with a girl or a woman? That's totally different. But I didn't watch her because I don't really I'll tell you this much. I did stop. I don't know what. I think it was the AEW group. That's not the same as TNN, right? Those are two different ones.
Right.
And
right.
This particular match was a big, heavy set guy named Samoa Joe. He's been around a while.
Yeah.
And this other kid. This is the strangest. What did they call him? He was wearing the regular boxing shorts that Muhammad Ali used to wear. He was a tall, thin kid. He had a nice build. He had a nickname. I forget what it was, but that they had a halfway decent match. I mean, it was clear that he was at least 100 pounds lighter than Joe, and Joe didn't give him a whole lot. I don't really know Joe. He was at one of the fan fests here in Charlotte, and he actually worked a match, and he got angry at his referee. And I remember being in the dressing room, and he comes storming back. Where's my referee? Where's my referee? It wasn't me, of course, but he was ticked off. But but I did watch that match, and it wasn't bad. They went to the floor and did some stuff. I'll tell you, the work ethic now is just as good, if not better, than it ever was, because everybody's trying to come up with something that they didn't have any before. Something new. You can only go so far that way. I mean, I mean, roller derby.
Amen.
Roller derby went so far, and then there really wasn't anything left, and roller derby kind of died out.
Yeah.
But in the 60s and 70s, when I was, almost a kid, I loved roller derby. Yeah. But they were doing more high-risk stuff. I'll bet a lot more guys are getting hurt now than they used
to. Absolutely. I was talking about that with somebody that was on the show not too long ago. The shelf life of a wrestler is not what it used to be, man, because I don't care if there's 10 people in the crowd or 10,000. They're still going to do the same match, in which I was always taught by, thank God, people like Tommy Rich and rock and roll and people that I worked with coming up. If the house ain't that good, you still want to give the ones that paid a show and whatnot, but you ain't got to kill yourself to do it.
You don't want to penalize the fans. They're the ones that are there, they're not the ones that aren't there. They're the ones that are there. But it is tough to motivate yourself when there's 40, 50 people in the audience. And I've worked some shows where it was like that. And it can, you might feel kind of bad about it and not really wanting to do much. But once you get in the ring, you get into the groove and you do what you need to do.
Exactly.
I mean, because you're just cheating yourself, and it's being a very much lack of professionalism. You got to perform. I mean, they paid their money, and thank God they're there. It'd be worse if there was nobody in the building at all.
Well,
I think they had one match. This was years ago between Jerry Lawler and my old buddy Terry Funk, and they fought in an empty building. Wrestled in an empty building.
Right.
And God, I miss Terry.
I'd say Jerry was the ref with that, right, Wolfie?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, I would say Jerry was probably the ref on that match. But anyway,
Could have Could have been, but it was a special match.
Incredible, yeah.
Terry Funk, I loved him to death. He used to beat me to death every night with that branding iron of his, and I loved it. I loved it. I'd do anything for him. I was very close to him. Stayed in touch with him, and I think dementia kind of got a hold of Terry, and he's gone now. But Dory's still with us, I believe. I think he's still down in Florida with the lady that he's been with forever, that because of my old age, I'm missing the name right now, but it'll come to me later. But anyway, it would be nice to, if Flair wanted to do a farewell match, do something with Steamboat or something like that.
Right.
But I think Steamboat was supposed to have been there, and he couldn't, they couldn't get together with the money, so that's why he wasn't there either.
Gotcha.
Because he lives in Tennessee now. Steam's in Tennessee.
Maryville.
Maryville. It's like
somewhere
Wolfie's
around
town.
Knoxville, right?
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I stay in touch with him just a little bit, not much.
Yeah. So I've got a question, and I think every one of our listeners would love to hear the answer that you have for this. Obviously, if you had, like, let me just say, Earl Hebner, Tommy Young, Charles Robinson, Jerry Calhoun, Nick Patrick, whatever, Mount Rushmore of referees. If you had to pick, who would you say your Mount Rushmore of referees is, Tommy?
So in other words, I'm supposed to pick 4 of us because there's 4 on Mount Rushmore.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Well, don't want to get myself in trouble, naturally, but I would say they would probably have to be number 1, of course, Earl Hebner. David, too.
Yeah,
David did that match between Steamboat and Randy in the big WrestleMania 3 in Detroit, where I'm from. That building is no longer there. Where they had the 87,000 or 90 or whatever the hell it was. It would have been nice to have had that match. And they worked David to death. So I would guess Earl, David, and Robbie, Mike Chioda, Calhoun. You can't forget David Manning in Texas. He was a fixture there.
Yeah.
David's a good guy, and Bill Alfonso was good.
Yes.
Yeah. Bill's still around. He's. I think he's still with us, and he was good. There were so many. But to narrow it down to 4, that would be difficult to do. I would say the Hebners, Charles Robinson, and Mike Chioda.
I love it. That's a great one.
And if there's a little room, you could stick me in the corner somewhere,
I love that. Well, we're going to stick you in the George Washington spot, but we'll go on from that.
You're very kind. And anybody that's nice enough to listen to this, hello, folks, because I got to tell you right now, I'm not on Facebook. I'm not on anything. I hide from that stuff. I don't even have a computer. And all I've got is a flip phone. I don't have an iPhone, so I can't do any of that stuff. So if anybody says things nicely about me, give me a call and let me know.
We'll definitely let you know. Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's take a quick time out and get a word from one of my dope-ass sponsors, and we'll be right back with more Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
Support for Live and in Color with Wolfie D is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code WOLFIE at manscaped.com. If my math's correct, that's about 8 million balls.
Brought something up talking about WrestleMania 3. That match was incredible, and I was a huge Randy Savage fan. And but another match on there that's kind of irrelevant right now just because of who was in it. One of my favorite matches was Billy Jack and Hercules. I'm sure you heard the news about Billy Jack. I met Billy Jack in '95. He came and worked Memphis for a few months, and
one of the baddest of the bad. Go ahead.
Yes,
you had to throw that
also gave me just the feeling of this dude's nuts. That's just kind of the impression I got from him.
Said that again. I'm sorry, I missed that.
I said, the impression that I got from him, obviously, yes, a bad dude, but also I just got the feeling of, man, this dude's nuts.
Well, Billy came into the territory. He worked a little bit here, not too much.
Right.
And but I'd heard he was one bad dude. I heard that, he had a very famous fight with a big Canadian wrestler named Mike Sharp. Do you know Mike?
I've heard about this. Yeah.
The big raw bone guy. The only guys that were there were Gene Lewis. He was in here for a little while. He used to team with Dale Lewis, and I never knew Dale Lewis, but Gene was a good guy, and Harley. And there was only 4 of them in the dressing room. Everybody, I guess, was gone, and they had a very stiff match. And one of the agents, because this was for WWE, was mad at both of them and put them in with each other and made them go a long time. And they were mad to begin with, and they're taking it out on each other. And I guess they came back to the dressing room and, well, I'm not a piece of bleep. Well, I'm not a piece of bleep. And they get ready to square up. And Gene Lewis told the story, said that Harley locked the door so nobody could come in, and they had one hell of a fight. And from what I understand, Billy Jack just beat the living hell out of Mike, and Mike is big and thick and raw bone. I mean, he's a big, tough, scary-looking guy, and Billy slaughtered him, from what I understand. And he also beat the hell out of Tiger Conway. From what I understand, he went after Barry Windham.
Wow.
I don't know about this. I just heard these things. Right. And it's ironic because Billy was just in the news the other day. Right. I think the story was that his wife was very sick and that he performed a mercy killing.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Yeah.
And I think he's in trouble for that. I wish him well because I didn't know him that well, but he was very easy to referee. He was a nice person. But when you hear that stuff, you think, gee whiz, I don't want to make this guy mad at me. Yeah. Another guy that was like that, but he wasn't such a nice guy, was a guy named Billy Robinson. He was a British guy.
Wow, a shooter.
And, a shooter, and temperamental. And he came in here, and I never had any problem with him at all. But I heard that we had a referee here by the name of Stu Schwartz.
Right.
And eventually he was fired, but he was from Florida. And apparently he could be very obnoxious. And I don't remember what he did, but he did something that aggravated Billy, and Billy beat the hell out of him right in the ring.
Wow.
I mean, he didn't wait till he got back to the dressing room. He beat the hell out of him right in the ring. And then on top of that, Stu, who was a good-sized guy, he was, the story I got was that he was waiting in the dressing room, and when Billy came in, Stu jumped him from behind, and Billy beat the hell out of him again. And but anyway, but Billy had a bad reputation. A lot of guys didn't like Billy. Me, I liked him. He was cool with me. The only guy that I ever really had any real trouble with was Black Jack Mulligan.
Really?
I had some trouble. Well, Jack had a terrible temper, and he got into it with a number of people. Him and Sergeant Slaughter got into it in Hampton, Virginia, right in the ring. They're beating the hell out of each other, and I'm, the punches are getting harder and harder. And what the hell's going on here? These guys are potatoing the hell out of each other. And anyway, earlier that match, Sarge went to run Jack's head into the. For security, all we had back then were just these big tires with a pole going up the middle and just a little piece of rope going through them. Yeah. Around, that's all we had. Well, Sarge grabbed one of those things and went to run Jack into it. And of course, you know what they always say, well, he moved and that stuff. And instead of catching Jack in the head with it, he caught him in the mouth with it and caught him good, knocked out a couple of Jack's teeth. And I've told this story before in other interviews, but anyway, it was a one fall death match, so you don't count anybody out. Right. So they went to the floor, and as I always told other referees, if the guys go to the floor and they're fighting, don't stand in the ring like an idiot. Get out there with them. because you don't want to count them out.
Right.
And if they're brawling, they're not going to pay any attention to the count. You get out there and try like you're trying to get them back in, and then as a last resort, then you get in the ring and count. It's just like you've got to when you get a guy on the ropes. There was a guy here that wrestled for a while, not wrestled, but referee. He was a real skinny kid in WCW, and then after I left. But then he went to WWE, and I think John Layfield picked on him. John could be a jerk, I understand, although I thought John was a great guy myself. But anyway, but this kid, he'd be throwing his arms all over the place like he's doing the frug or something. I could never figure out what he was doing. But as soon as the guy would get the guy in the rope, he'd immediately start counting. I said, no, you don't start counting right away. You tap him on the back. You're a referee. You're trying to be a real referee. Right. All right, step away, and he's starting to, come on, man, come on. You talk to them, and I used to talk loud. I wanted the fans to hear me. Right. I would talk louder. Let him go. I want the people to hear me. Yeah. And when you get frustrated and you're trying to get him off him, then you count. But you give him a chance to get his heat. If you start counting right away, and the office tells you the count is 5. So they got to break on 4, because if you hit the big 5, you got to DQ them. That's a shoot. And, it's just like counting guys down in the ring. And this could be a real nightmare. Guys would get lazy and not get their shoulders up. And I would tell them, guys, get those shoulders up. If you're down, I got to hit 3. The people are looking right at it. Right. So, we had a guy here, nice guy. His name was Austin Idol. His real name is Dennis McCord. I don't know if he's still with us. I think he is. He is. But he would get lazy that way. And one time, I forget what it was, but he didn't break. And I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hit the bell. And he's like, whoa, what the hell? That ain't the finish. I said, pal, you just made it the finish. But what I would do, I would whisper to his opponent as I'm walking across the ring to tell the timekeeper he's disqualified, refuse it. So anyway, I tell him he's disqualified. I go to raise the guy's hand, pulls his hand down. No, I don't want it that way. No, you're the winner. Come on, and pull it down. No, I want to beat him legit. I don't want to beat him by DQ. Yeah. All right. We'll let it go. Ring the bell. You've corrected what happened. Yeah. He gets the message that, hey, the referee's got the power to stop this match whenever he wants. Right, the timekeeper is going to listen to the referee, So I had that trouble with Greg Valentine. He'd get lazy. One time I had to disqualify him. And there were we had another guy named Lynn Denton. Remember Lynn Denton?
Oh, yeah, the grappler. Yeah.
Great guy, Lynn. Loved him, but he would get lazy with his shoulders. We were somewhere, and I went 1, 2, 3, counted him out. Boy, he come up mad as a hornet. What the hell are you doing? I said, Lynn, you've got to get the damn shoulders up. Well, anyway, we hit the dressing room, and he knew he was going to be in trouble with the office, so he's giving me hell. And Gene Anderson, bless his heart, who was the office representative up at the time, said, damn well your shoulders were down. Get them up next time. So Lynn had to shut right up, But, and we got over that. Lynn's a good guy and a very good, great performer, really was and is. And but sometimes guys would get lazy, and it could be a referee's nightmare because you can't be covering for him too much. Right.
It makes everybody in the ring look stupid, not just the referee. It makes the rest. I love that you the way you said you told him, hey, just refuse it, because it's like nobody knows how to ad-lib like that anymore. It's great to hear things like that. I'm a big fan of people that can ad-lib.
Well, we did a thing in '85. We had 2 shows. Thanksgiving night, and there was the one in Greensboro. Earl was there doing that one, and I was in Atlanta doing the one in the Omni. This was called The Gathering. Yeah. And it was a match where Dusty was going to clothesline Flair. Flair goes into me. The champ goes into me. I hit the floor. And the rest of the horsemen jump in the ring, and they're beating up on Dusty. And I see it, and I try to get up, and Dusty kicks Arn into me as I'm climbing up to the apron, which flattens me again. And this time I'm down for the count. But during that match, I don't know what happened, but, one of them whispered to me, "Here we go, Tommy." So I'm right behind Flair, but I'm not on top of him. I'm not like I'm blowing in his ear. Right. You gotta be back a little bit, figuring the champ would come into me. I don't know whether he forgot or what, but Dusty clotheslined him and he went down right in front of me. So I'm standing there looking at Dusty, and Dusty's looking at me. So I'm thinking, well, Tommy, we're going to do something else. And I didn't know what it was going to be. Nobody did, but you just stay close. And what happened? A minute or two later, Dusty grabbed Flair by the front of his tights, pulled him forward, which sent him into me, then to the floor I went. So it got screwed up, but we covered it up and just did something else. We had to ad-lib, and we did.
Nobody knew the difference but y'all.
Nope, not a bit. And it worked out beautifully. It really did.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
I've done a few other podcasts. Dave Penzer, I did one with him. Yeah. And, of course, with Corny, my old buddy, Jim Cornette. Yeah. And I was supposed to do one with Jerry Briscoe. We talked about it, but Jerry never got back with me. Yeah. There's somebody I love, but I would never want to make mad either. No. Jerry's got a temper like Godzilla, brother. Not his brother. Jack was the most laid-back, easygoing guy you ever saw. Not Jerry. You don't piss Jerry off. I love him. Great guy. Like Dorian Terry. Dory was so low-key and a perfect guy to be your champion. Great wrestler and all that. Whereas Terry, he's running across the ring on his all fours, headbutting you like a dog. I mean, Terry would do anything. He didn't care. Yeah. And he's not volatile, but I'm just saying so many opposites, brothers that are totally different from each other. Right. And it's that way in my family too. So yeah. Awesome. Back when I was in the business, it was totally different than what it is now. Everybody knows it's a work now, right? But they only thought it was a work when I was in it. You still protected it. Entertainment Tonight called me and Paul Harvey and all that stuff. They wanted my story when I got hurt. Really? And I told them, Jeff West called me from Entertainment Tonight. Can we do the story, Tommy? I said, we can't, Jeff, because to tell you the story honestly, and I've got to tell it honestly, I would have to expose my profession, and I don't have the heart to do it. It doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter now. I'll say anything because the people are totally smartened up now. There's no point in trying to look stupid and kayfabe people when that term went out years ago. Yeah. But back then, this business gave me everything, and I couldn't betray it. I mean, there were some guys that did betray it. The worst I ever saw, I about fell off my couch when I saw this. Never knew the guy, but his name was Eddie Mansfield. Right. And he was, I think, went on ABC. Yeah. And he actually showed them how to make the blade, and he cut himself. And I'm sitting there, what the hell? Right. I can't believe this guy is corny. Corny just tore him apart in an interview. Oh, I'm sure. But Corny's like that. Corny. Yeah. He's somebody you don't want to mad at you because he's crazy enough to kill you. Yeah. But Mansfield, I think he was pretty much blacklisted after that. That was terrible what he did. He should have never done that. He came up with some excuse for doing it, but nobody bought it. He was basically persona non grata for doing that. I just, this gave me a living. Like I said, I was a nerd. And and guys, this is the honest to God truth. I never belonged in this business. If I had been trained the way I should have been trained, I'd have been running out of there with my tail between my legs and all my clothes dropping as I'm running, But I broke in Detroit, a guy named Lou Klein. All he wanted was the money.
Yeah.
And the only thing he ever taught me how to do was lock up, which I already knew how to do.
Right.
And see, he had a gym, and he would keep guys in the gym. And he'd be training them, and then I'd be learning from them. It was almost like a Ponzi thing, like a pyramid scheme. You're learning from guys that are only 2, 3, 4 months ahead of you.
Right.
But I didn't learn how to do anything. I'm surprised that more guys didn't get disgusted and just beat the hell out of me the few matches that I had, because I wrestled I wrestled Andre. It was a handicap match, me and another guy at the same time. And I wrestled Eric the Red, different guys that I will come to me later on.
Yeah.
My career was very limited, but refereeing, I did it all. And boy, I had a lot of intertwining with Andre, because he would come into the territory, and I was the office representative. I would get all the finishes from the booker, and I'd have to go to the town, set all the matches up. I mean, brother, referees worked when I was in the business. It wasn't like now where you do one match and you go back. There was only one match for one referee for the whole show. Right. I had to set up all the matches, and a lot of the times the dressing rooms were separate. So I had to carry the matches back and forth. I had to do all that, and sometimes even pick up the money and bring that back to the office. Sometimes I had to do that. But Jim Crockett, who was the big boss, would say, Tommy, Andre is your responsibility. You pick him up at the hotel, you get him to the show, you drop him off, because I had to be there early. I'm leaving late. And brother, you should have seen him shoehorn his way into my car. It was unreal. He'd be sitting up front with me, and I had a Chrysler Fifth Avenue, which wasn't a real big car. It wasn't small, but it wasn't real big either. Yeah. And he'd be sitting there, and he's always wearing them cowboy boots, and which made him even taller, because he wasn't anywhere near as tall as they said he was.
Right.
His giantism was more of width than it was height.
Right.
But he'd be sitting there, and his knees would be almost touching his chin. He never broke my seats, but it was very difficult to converse with him, because he never had a real good. He didn't master the English language very well. It was tough to talk to him.
What do you mean? I'm pretty good. I'm just kidding.
And he was very temperamental.
Really?
If we went into a store or a restaurant or something to eat, you didn't have to be a wrestling fan to know who Andre was. Right. He was well known all over. And of course, just his size, he stands out like the Eiffel Tower. and anyway, he would, people, he's gone now, so I can say these things. People would come up and, Andre, can I put my hand in yours, or can I get an autograph? And he was like, sure, as soon as you give me blowjob. And I'm going, oh, Lord.
My God.
People would be stunned and look at each other. Nobody smarted off. Believe me, nobody did that. Right. But a lot of times we'd be walking out, and I'd sneak back into the people and apologize. He's just having a bad day. I'm really sorry. I can't begin to tell how many times I apologized for him. He could be a very mean individual. He could be nice, but he was temperamental, and he was one of these guys. If he didn't like you, he'd beat the hell out of you right in the ring, which you do not do. Yeah. You do not do that. He did that to John Studd. Yeah. Of course, Studd would aggravate him, because when Andre got in the ring, he would step over that top rope, and he made it clear to people, don't step over the top rope. Well, Bobby Heenan told me that Studd thinks he's a giant, and he's not. And anyway, he would step over the top rope, because Studd was huge. Yeah. And I forget what show it was. Bill Eadie and I were talking about that the other day at the thing that we just did, downtown Charlotte. And Studd just grabbed his stuff and left. And didn't even finish the match. And that guy's going to kill me. I'm leaving. And he did that to Kaz, because he didn't like Kaz, but almost nobody liked Kaz, Iron Sheik. Right. And Randy was another one. I know you said you were a fan of Randy's, but I'm not a fan of Randy's, I'll tell you that. Randy burned so damn many bridges, you can't count them all. And it's a shame. When he was Randy Poffo, he was a nice guy. I even helped him get into this territory because he and his dad and brother Lanny and his dad Angelo, they worked the Detroit area a lot for the original Sheik, who was a real. He was really from Lebanon. Kaz, the Iron Sheik, he wasn't even an Arab. He was Persian. Yeah. So, but people don't relate to Persians, but they relate to Arabs. So that's why they called him the Iron Sheik. Yeah. But anyhow, but he beat the hell out of Randy and beat the hell out of Kaz and Stud and he had a temper. Andre did. He really did.
Oh man, that's great. That's a great story. Yeah.
I've got a million of them.
That you wrestled him. That's funny.
Yeah. Well, you could call it that. Good Lord. No, I mean, guys, I was the shits. I mean, like I said, I was about as useful as an ice box at the North Pole. I mean, I was awful, and I admit it. I remember I got in the ring with Hans Schmidt one time, if you remember that name, and he did something, and I took some kind of a flop, and he's going, "Oh, Jesus," but he didn't. Some guys would get angry if you didn't. Luthez was like that. Yeah. If you didn't belong in the ring, Lou would make you pay the price. He never did that to me, but he did it to some other people. It wasn't a necessary thing to do. Some guys did that, some didn't.
Yeah. I know that I've been guilty of that before, just dealing, especially the Memphis Job guys were horrible, man. And just on some of these shows, and they're making you, I'm saying making me look stupid because they're so bad that you almost have to shoot with them to make it look right,
Well, you don't want to bury yourself,
Well, exactly.
There's all sorts of problems that occur, but they put guys in the ring sometimes that should not be in the ring.
No.
And I really shouldn't have been. I had no wrestling background. Yeah. I knew wrestling was a work because if I ever thought it was real, I would have never got in there because I can't wrestle. I never wrestled. I mean, I can apply the goofy holds and all that and all that, but a real shooting wrestler, it's definitely good to have a wrestling background. You should be an athlete. Yeah. And I mean, that's who they usually went with. Dory was an excellent amateur wrestler. Jack Briscoe was AAU champion. Yeah. But they put the belt on Tommy, but they only put it on him as a favor to Jim Barnett, and they took it off of him a week later. Yeah, when we had that clash in the Superdome in New Orleans, when all the world champions were there. Yeah. That was really special to me, seeing all those guys in the dressing room. But they didn't invite Tommy to that because he, that was just a favor. Tommy was never world champion, and but they had everybody there. I mean, they had Lou Thez, they had Pat O'Connor, who I never worked with, wish I had. I worked with Thez, of course, as a referee. They had Gene Kaniski. They had Buddy Rogers. They had Jack Briscoe. Everybody, all the former champions were there, except for one guy. His name was Dick Hutton. I never knew him. He was only champion for about, I think, a year or two. Excellent wrestler. He was the one that he took the belt off of Lou Thez, then Pat O'Connor took the belt off of Hutton. That's how that worked.
Gotcha.
And then Buddy Rogers beat Pat O'Connor, and Lou Thez beat Buddy, and then Kaniski beat Thez, then Dory beat Kaniski, and then Harley beat Dory, Jack Briscoe beat Harley, and then Terry beat Jack Briscoe, and Terry was there. Matter of fact, Terry was doing the commentary with Jim Ross that night.
Yeah.
And then later on, Harley, and then finally Flair. And Flair had the belts a damn many times. Ronnie Garvin. We put the belt on Ronnie Garvin in Michigan, in Detroit. Yeah. But Ronnie didn't draw. Boy, there's a tough guy. He's almost like a Billy Jack type. Kevin Sullivan's another one. Yeah. And guys you do not want to fight because you are not willing. I'm not willing to do to them what they're willing to do to me.
Right.
If Ronnie Garvin fought Kevin Sullivan, one of them would die. Because they both rip an eye right out of the socket. These guys would do it. A lot of people were scared of Kevin, and with good reason. He was short, but boy, he was bad. We're cool now, though. Kevin's a great guy. Great guy.
Yeah. He's come on here before too. He was real cool about it.
Yeah, Kevin's a great guy. It's really a shame what happened to Nancy. Nancy used to be with Kevin and wound up with Benoit. And did you guys know Benoit?
I think I'd met him like once.
Yeah. I met him once, and he wasn't very friendly. Yeah. And there was something about him that made me nervous. Gotcha. I was always nervous around him, but yet everybody seemed to like him.
That's it.
And he worked that program with Kevin, and it was a half a shoot because he took Nancy away from Kevin. Yeah. Right. So you got a woman involved, and I wouldn't want to referee one of those matches. They were in the damn lavatories, ramming their heads into the paper dispensers and everything. Some of the stuff I saw, I forget who it was. I saw a referee actually count out a guy whose head was inside a garbage can. So you couldn't even see his shoulders. How would you count him up? But the referee counted him out. Yeah. I've seen some crazy stuff. But I'll tell you, the king of the risk takers, who I cannot believe is still alive today, you got to know who that is. That is Mick Foley. Yes. Yeah. How he's alive today is beyond me.
Yeah.
I mean, he made Terry look like an angel, if that's possible. But Foley's just incredible. I never saw anybody give more of himself to the profession than him.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. He's a nice guy. I've seen him a long
pretty good. I mean, he's a little bit hunched. He still walks pretty good. I mean, he's a little bit hunched over. I saw him at Jerry Jarrett's funeral, and he's like I said, he don't have no cane, no nothing like that. I mean, he still walks around pretty good.
He's bigger than you think he is too. He's about 6'3". Yeah. I didn't realize he was that tall. Right. But he gave his all. I mean, I've never seen anybody give more, fall into a bunch of tacks sticking out of his back, and I thought, my God in heaven, I've never seen anything like that. I think it's a little stupid, really, but you got to respect him because incredible, just incredible.
Yeah. And the big fall off the top of the cage and all that.
Yes, it's he fell through it. Yeah, man. I never, like I said, I really didn't follow wrestling after, I watched this program about this guy that Corny hired, this black kid called New Jack.
Right.
And I'd never known anything about him, but I watched the program. My God, this guy's actually knifing people.
Oh, I know. We talk about that a lot. And I worked with Jack a lot, and I got along with him. But he never did. Me and him always had good matches. He never tried to take advantage of me or nothing like that. But, man, some of the stuff he did to them other folks, man, is just, I don't know how he didn't get locked up, for real.
I don't either. I was stunned at what I saw. And he passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, not too long ago, a couple years.
Yeah.
What happened to him?
Was it heart? Yeah. He was living in Greensboro. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I never knew him, but I watched that program, and I thought, oh my God, there's stuff on TV right now. As a matter of fact, while we're talking, I'm gonna switch the station right now. It's on Vice.
Dark Side of the Ring
all the time, and here it is, Dark Side of the Ring. Who is it now? The last of the Von Erichs. That must be Kevin talking, because he's the only one left.
He's the last. And
it's ironic because they just put that movie out. How did that movie draw? Any idea?
I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah, I think it did okay, but I think a lot of people didn't like the storytelling element because it was very off, I think is what, and I've heard guys that I trust implicitly say that there were just a lot of things that were not correct. And I mean, that story is a layup. Right. The three of us could get together and we could write that movie, and that movie would be a big movie because it's the story. And I feel like you mess up that story, you're missing the point there. So I don't know.
Well, I never knew the father because he was always in Texas, Fritz von Erich. He's one of the legends in wrestling, no doubt about it. Yeah. And I didn't know any of the boys, but in 1982, Ole Anderson was the booker here, and boy, he was tough to work for. Made my peace. He's still around. I think he's got a bad case of multiple sclerosis. I think he's around Atlanta somewhere, but I think Ole is still with us. But he wanted to send me to Florida. It's funny, I was talking about Stu earlier, and there were 3 referees here, me, Stu Schwartz, and a guy named Sonny Fargo. Right. And Ole wanted to change the referees up. He wanted to bring Bill Alfonso in from Florida for 6 months, and us would each take 2-month intervals down in Florida. And of course, Alfonso would be up here for the full 6 months. So Stu was supposed to go first, and he refused to go because of that incident that happened with you remember that I was telling you earlier, Billy Robinson, where he got his teeth knocked out and he felt the office didn't support him, so he didn't want to go to Florida. So Ole said, okay, well, he's coming in here, so for 2 months, you're fired. So anyway, I'm next, and Ole said, well, I suppose you don't want to go either, huh? I said, Ole, just tell me my starting date. I couldn't wait to get there, because I knew Ole wouldn't last long because he was hot-shotting the territory. You bring in Abdullah the Butcher, your territory is going to get hurt. And I knew that. And I went down there, and Dory was doing the booking at the time, Dory Funk. And one of the guys that had come in was David Von Erich. He was second in line. Kevin was first, and then David. And Kerry after that, then it was Mike, and then the young one, Chris, who I never did meet. I met all the other boys. And David and I got pretty tight. And I really, really liked Dave. And good guy, kind of tall, kind of lanky, real tall. He's about 6'6" or 7". He was taller than everybody. And but the best worker, he was going to be the world champion. And we got to be tight. And then what it was, David was working heel. You know, in Texas, they're all baby faces, of course, but in Florida, he was kind of like Dory's protege. He was doing a thing where he was calling Dory Mr. Funk and that kind of stuff, and David was a heel. So anyway, they would come in. One time, Kerry came in with Mike to visit David, and Kerry worked. Mike wasn't working yet. I think Mike was maybe even still in high school. Mike never should have been in the ring. Mike wanted to be in a rock band anyway. Right? You know, Kevin, Kerry, and David were all big. Mike was not. And Mike never really, I don't think, fit in, but I really don't know because I never worked with him. He started working, I think, after I got hurt. But anyway, that's how I got to know all of them. And Kevin came in I think Kevin came in by himself, and he teamed up with David a few times. And I found Kevin to be somewhat standoffish. He wasn't overly friendly. David was great. Kerry was a sweetheart of a kid, but just goofy. Kerry was, he'd forget all the time we'd be in the ring. Oh, what's the finish? What's the finish? Do this, Kerry. Do that, Kerry. I mean, I was telling him all the time. He'd forget the finish, but a great kid, super athlete. Kerry was the best athlete of all the boys. Yeah. David was the best worker. Kevin had movie star looks. He was the handsomest of the boys. He's the only one still left, and he's scheduled to be at the Fan Fest in Charlotte this year.
Nice.
Well, he was supposed to be there last year, and he punked out and screwed Marty up, which he should not have done. That was lousy, but he did it because he's got to fly him all the way from Hawaii. That's where he lives.
Right.
And a number of guys live there. Johnny Walker, wrestling too. He lived in Hawaii. A couple others, I think. But anyway, I got to know all the Von Erichs, and they were all good kids, really. Kevin loosened up a little bit later on, but David was my buddy, and he passed away in Japan. He was the first to go. Yeah. And I don't know what the circumstances were there, but when I knew him in Florida, David was no druggie. He wasn't anything like that. Right. So I don't know, but they were good guys. I really did like the Von Erichs, but you talk about a curse being on a family.
Yeah, definitely.
Lord. That's just unreal, and it just that's the reason Kevin went to Hawaii. He just wanted to get away from everything. Yeah, and he's still in Hawaii now. He's got his family. In fact, I'm looking at his boys on TV right now, and I hope he's happy. I hope he's at peace.
No doubt, no doubt.
Well, Dave Manning's still around. He's still around.
Yeah.
I wish, that you were getting out of the business right when I was getting in at about 16 years old in 1989. And I wish that
was a bad year for me. Yeah, that was it. Well, anyway, thank you. Well, thank you for all the kind words. It's nice to be remembered. I mean, for God's sake, I have been gone now going on 35 years. Yeah. And it amazes me to this day that people remember me because I was just a referee. I mean, usually, who pays attention to the referee? So I was a little different. I mean, as far as greatest is concerned, that's all a matter of opinion. I will say this. I do feel that I was probably the most entertaining referee.
Amen.
That more stuff happened when I was in there with than with the other referees. Sometimes I hot dogged it. I used to jump the top rope, and they told me, quit doing that because you're hot dogging it. I said, well, yeah, but I'm just trying to show that I'm athletic, and the people love it. And but Crockett told me, he says, quit doing it. And there were other things that I would do. I mean, like I talked before about Sweet Hansen. He was big and thick, about 325 pounds, and he would really hit that. When you give him a turnbuckle, he would hit that turnbuckle so much that the ring would move. Yeah. And I would take a bump, and Sandy Scott, who used to be one of our agents, messed with me all the time. What are you doing that for? Sandy, stand on a rug and have somebody yank it out from under you and see what happens to you. I mean, I'm standing in the ring and the floor moves. It's a natural bump. Yeah, well, you're showboating. No, I'm not. I'm showing the people that guy hit the ring post or turnbuckle so hard that it knocked me off my feet. The boys loved it.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Dory Funk was another one. Dory would hit that turnbuckle so hard, and that was when I was down there in 82. It's the first time I met Dory. And Johnny Weaver, bless his heart, God, I miss John, told me that he told Dory, because Dory asked him, how is this guy? And Johnny Weaver told me, he said, I told him that when you get him, you'll never let him go. So that was very nice of Johnny to say that. But anyway, Dory hit the turnbuckle, and I went flying because the ring moved. I mean, I would play it by feel. I'd just stand naturally. And if the ring moved, I'd take a natural bump.
Yeah.
I didn't telegraph it or anything. If the ring didn't move, I wouldn't take the bump.
Right.
But Dory hit it hard, and Dory was big. He's about 260 at the time, and he loved it because that's telling the people how hard he's hitting the turnbuckle. All the guys loved it, but Sandy liked to pick on me. He didn't like. I had an ego back then. I got to admit, I did. One time, me and Flair were walking down the hall at the office, and here comes Jimmy Crockett. And I'm in a silly mood that day. And I said, Jimmy, stop and behold, you have in your possession Ricky Steamboat, the best baby face in the business.
Right.
Ric Flair, the best baby face or heel in the business, and Tommy Young, the best referee of them all, and they're all yours. And
Right.
Flair's going, oh my God, I don't believe this. And Jimmy just looked right through me and kept right on walking.
That's
but
great.
It was just a silly thing to do, you know. And Jimmy didn't smile too much. He was kind of a stone-faced type of guy, but he really was a good guy. And it was a shame that we lost this territory, because my whole career was pretty much here, except for the final 2 years, which was, you know, with WCW. And of course, the first year was with IWA. That's where I got my exposure, that they saw me. But yeah, just so much fun. And entertainment wise, I just loved it. And I kibitzed with the fans, and they, you know, I'd flip me the Byrd, and thank you, I am number one. Thank you very much. Stuff like that.
Right.
And I remember we had this one guy mess with me every week, and one time he's giving me hell, and I walked up to him, I said, you know, you're too good a customer. I don't want to mess with you. And I just walked away, and he kind of appreciated what I said. And some of them hated me, and in the end, a lot of them liked me. And the last time I reffed, it was at the Fan Fest in Charlotte. And Ricky Morton, there's a super guy, one of the nicest people I've ever known in my life. And his boy, Morty's boy, I forget the kid's first name, but he's working now. They're teaming together.
Right.
And anyway, Morty and his boy were in the ring. I was going to do the match, and I was coming out last. And I come through the curtain, and the people erupted. And Morty says, damn, Tommy, you got a bigger pop than we did. I said, well, the people like me. I'm so nice to them, and I'm talking to them all the time. And if they want to have a beer with me or something, I don't act like I'm above them. I'm not. I'm just one of them. Right. I'm just a person who got a break. There's nothing special about me. You're only as good as how well you're pushed. And once you're out of sight, you're out of mind. But I just love the fans. And I think they appreciated that. And I would still love to referee, but it's just too dangerous. It's pointless. I can't do it anymore. And Earl said the same thing. Tommy, I'm not getting in the ring anymore either. There's just no point. And but I wish just to get that pop from the fans, because I sure didn't get any pops when I was reffing during my career. Although one time in Toronto was a place, the old Maple Leaf Gardens, where they played hockey. We walked down on a ramp, and the ramp was exactly the same level as the ring. You didn't have to step up. You were right along with the ring. And of course, the people were sitting down below. And so I had done something, probably did something that made the baby face look good, or caught something the match before. You know, an intermission, I'm going back to the ring. And they jumped up and started clapping and cheering. And I stopped and looked at him, actually looked behind me. I thought a baby face was coming up behind me, and that's who they were cheering. And I thought, by God, they're cheering me. and I got in the ring. I mean, you know, because I had done something they were happy with. I mean, you know how the fans are. They're fickle. They love you one second, they hate you the next. Right. But that particular moment, they loved me. So it was fun refereeing in Canada. I didn't get a chance to really travel, because the traveling was just getting ready to get started when I got hurt. And, you know, Nick Patrick went over to the Egg Dome, and I think it's called in Japan, maybe Tokyo. It seats 50,000, and it was full. I never got a chance to work in Europe or Asia, where they had those matches. When we were in Iraq, they had a ring set up in Iraq. Remember that?
Right. Yes, sir.
It would have been so nice to have done that stuff, but that stuff happened after I got hurt. Right. You know, and so many of the guys came along that I never got a chance to work with. Steve Austin and I, we had a beer at the Slamboree in 1992. He was still Stunning Steve at the time.
Right.
He was teaming with Brian Pillman. There's a sad case, too. Brian, I loved him. He was a great guy. But Steve was telling me, well, Bobby Eaton told me that Steve was a fan of mine, and we had a beer, and I used to watch you when I was a kid and all that, and look what happened to Steve. Good Lord.
No doubt.
I think he actually got over even better than Hogan did at his peak.
I agree.
think he was even hotter, although he wound up having problems, all that beer that he'd be drinking and stuff.
I know, yeah.
But he's a great guy, and I never got a chance to rep The Rock, but I repped his dad all the time, Rocky Johnson.
Right.
And he just recently passed. So there's, and The Rock's a great guy too. At least he was back then.
Sure.
He's got to be loaded now. God, I don't know what the hell he's worth. He's been in everything.
I know.
Super guy.
Yeah.
And, some guys that were idiots, some were great. Memories. I would have written a book, except that so many other people wrote them.
Right.
And you gotta push a book. You gotta promote it.
You gotta promote it.
I wasn't willing to do all that. So I've been gone so long. Most people don't really know who I am. Some do. I know you'll probably get. I hope you get a decent response. If you would kindly let me know how the responses are. See, one thing, Peggy Lathan, she's one of the old fans that died recently. She was almost like my girlfriend.
Okay.
And she knew I didn't do anything on the internet. So when people responded to something that I did, she would send me in the mail all the responses from people. And if people put their phone numbers down, I'd call them up.
Wow.
And it'd be funny as hell because I'd say, could I speak to so-and-so? Sure. May I ask who's calling? My name is Tommy Young. Bob, you got a call. Yeah, who is it? Tommy Young. Who? Tommy Young. Who? Tommy Young. Tommy Young? Calling here? Is this a joke? I said, no, this is Tommy Young, and I just wanted to thank you for the kind words. I said, there's nothing special about me, brother. If somebody said something nice about me, I appreciate it. Yeah. I don't put myself on a pedestal. I can understand how the really big names would, but not me. I get mail every so often, not much, one about every 2 months. Usually it's those bubblegum cards. They want me to sign them.
Right.
They did those in the mid-'80s.
Right.
I remember Francis Crockett telling me, we're going to make you famous with the bubblegum cards. I said, I'm already famous. Make me rich. I don't care about being famous. I want to be rich because I am not an extrovert. I mean, when I go back to that dressing room, I sit down and you wouldn't know I'm there. Jimmy Valiant's the same way.
Yeah.
The second he hits that door, he goes into character. But once he's back in the dressing room, he's nothing up. Whereas guys like Corny and Flair, that's them, 100%. That is them. That's the way they are. They are. And it's not an act with them. That's them. Whereas me, I'm in character. But once I'm out of character, I blend into the background. I don't want people to notice me. Yeah. And it's funny. A lot of people look at me like they think they know me, but they're not sure.
Right.
I would have been perfect for one of those American Express cards. Do you remember me or do you know me? And because I'd have been perfect for that, because so many people knew my face but didn't necessarily know my name. Because with all the syndication and stuff, and part of the reason that I'm still well known is because of McMahon's 24-hour wrestling network.
Right.
See, when he bought WCW, he got all the tapes. He's got the tapes of when I was repping back in the 70s and 80s. And I was at the Detroit Zoo one time because I'm from Detroit. And my two boys are up there, and I was up visiting. And this kid come up to me at the Detroit Zoo. He's about 25. Are you Tommy Young? I said, yes. Do you know who I am? and he said, yes. I said, I had to retire before you were born. He said, well, you're all over the wrestling network. He says, a lot of people know who you are. And mind you now, that's the only time that ever happened. Nobody has done it since. That was about 6-7 years ago. And but it was startling because, 30 years ago, and I was just a referee, you don't expect that.
Yeah.
And I gave him an autograph and all that. And I hate signing autographs because my penmanship is so awful. If I could write like Flair, his penmanship is beautiful.
Yeah.
Just beautiful. But I'm a nervous type. I don't like to sign my name, but I do it because you got to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I heard somewhere that at one time, I don't know if this is still true, that my signature was worth $15.
Well, there you go.
$15, man. My damn signature ain't worth 15 cents. It looks awful.
Nonsense. I don't believe it.
Believe me, it does. I know a good signature. Well, I appreciate you saying that, but I know a good signature when I see one, and mine isn't it. But anyhow, okay, I guess we can
thank you so much.
It's been fun.
And I could sit here and talk to you for the longest time. And like I said, if you're willing to do it, man, we'll bring you back on because I know you got stories for days. But
thank you so much, Tommy. Really.
Yeah,
well, it's my pleasure. And best wishes. Make all the money you can and save it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I know, I know I speak for all the listeners, the millions of wrestling fans that we love you, man. And it's been an honor to have you on the show with us today. And just thank you so much, Tommy.
Okay.
Really.
Best wishes. You've got my number, so let me know if anything's up.
I will, sir. Thank you. Take care.
God be with you.
All right, we are back with Ask Wolfie D Anything. And man, Tommy Young, I didn't know if we were ever going to stop. I mean, I love Tommy, but man, that brother, like I was saying to you between takes there, his stories have stories that veer into other stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure, man. And you don't want to cut him off. You know me, man.
Right.
I'll be cutting them off, and a lot of people have gotten upset that
You've
that
cut off the best of them.
An hour, but I'll cut them off, man. But that I just felt, I'm respectful of my elders, just general public, and I'm also respectful of elders in the business. So it was like a double whammy for me to not cut him off. So
right. And that's proof that Wolfie has manners, y'all. So.
Absolutely, and is respectful by God.
Yes. But Tommy is great. Got to meet him at the Fan Fest. He raised my hand. Big fan of Tommy all my life. And yeah, just excited that we got to have him on, and very, very pleased with all the stories. I mean, if y'all are wanting a part 2 out of him, just, we'll get him. But that's,
let us know.
He don't play with the stories though. He's got it. So all right. Well, we've got a few questions here for Ask Wolfie, and this one kind of works because I think he was a territory referee, and I think this is a good question here. So Wonder Bread from Twitter asked this question. He says, what territory would you love to have worked from the great territory days? Is there one you had no desire to work? So basically the one that maybe you wish you could have worked, and one that, I'm okay.
Let's see. I mean, just as a kid, because I only know stuff from what I hear, and then nowadays, you can watch stuff or whatever. So I feel like Florida would have been pretty cool. I feel Mid-Atlantic, Continental, all that stuff that is, that's not too far from like a Memphis style or whatever. And a lot of it was Memphis style, regardless.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
I think the only thing that I ever watched that I couldn't get into too much was AWA.
Okay.
I don't know why. I mean, they had great talent and stuff, but I guess just in that time frame, it just wasn't my thing when I was watching it. You know what I mean?
Some of their guys were a little older,
Gagne and all that stuff. I just not into those types of wrestlers. But very, I respect them.
Right. And I mean, the Road Warriors, the Fabs, Ric Flair, those guys spent some time there. Bruiser Brody, there was definitely
Right. They weren't regulars. You're right. They got action figures out of it. But, I'm going to kind of throw in something. I almost feel like I could have seen you work in the Portland territory a little bit too, man. From what little we've learned about it, I could see Wolfie maybe taking Slash up there or something. You know what I'm saying? Maybe Jamie's like, no, brother, I ain't going, and you would have to be like, okay, well, I'm going to Portland. I'm going to work this other gimmick, or maybe Stampede. Although, I don't know. You maybe wouldn't have liked the cold too much, but
Texas.
Yeah, dude. Slash would have been great in world class, man.
Didn't they have Tijo Khan there?
They did. You and Tijo could have been buddies.
Yeah. If people used to tell me that, hey, mommy, Tijo Khan. They also said, what was the other? Damien Demento.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I didn't really. I remembered what Tijo Khan looked like, but then I saw something not too long ago of him, and I was like, man, he is kind of Slash looking, or I'm kind of Tijo looking. I don't know which one it is.
Either one, yeah. He just had that little mohawk, but the goatee gimmick was kind of similar. Yeah. Slash, the son of Tijo.
Yeah.
Slash Khan. Yeah.
Slash Khan.
Yeah, Tony's his brother. Yeah, but anyway, yeah, no. So you're saying like Florida would have been a definite win for you, probably Texas, maybe some too.
Yeah,
Atlantic. Yeah.
Definitely the weather. I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Minneapolis
I like there anyway.
Yeah, no doubt. Right. Come on, give me you could have met up with Bob Cook early on down there. Maybe worked, Al Perez and asked him if you could use the whirly bird and stuff. And
sure. I wish we could find an Al Perez to get on here.
Oh, man, that would be incredible. Yes. Yeah. Wow. We got to make that happen. Okay. Good call. Okay. The next one is from old buddy Cause Effect on Instagram. And this is a good one, even though it's not really tying into Tommy Young, but I think it works either way. So I know you love Kiss, but who are Wolfie's top 5 rock vocalists?
Vocalist? Oh, Lord. See, now they think I'm too technical about this shit when it comes to music. Let me think. A front men, or am I really talking voice here? Because a lot of my favorite front men, their voices ain't that great. Especially, I used to love Vince Neil. He's terrible.
It's terrible now. Yeah.
Awful, man.
Yeah, he was awesome back in the day, but man, I was showing my wife
phrasing shit.
Yeah, well, he's to that point to where he's just
Yeah.
Oh man, God love him. Motley Crue is one of my favorite bands of all time, and man, it breaks my heart to hear that. But yeah, it's true. But I mean, I would say let's do frontmen. Because I think that's top 5 frontmen.
Yeah, I gotta love Paul Stanley, man.
Of course,
he's good. I mean, the way he does shit, and he's got a good voice. I think
he's a damn 5-octave soprano, man. He can get up there.
The beginning of Heaven's on Fire. I can't even. But yeah, him, and then I liked Axl too.
Oh man,
another one that just is kind of
thrashed his vocals.
Yeah, man. Mick Jagger.
Still got it. Man, Mick can still do it.
Help me out here. I bumped my head the other day.
David Lee Roth. I mean, did you like him?
Yeah. I can't stand him now. I don't even I think he's like a freaking weirdo, man.
Yeah, he is a weirdo.
And I really used to like, I'll never forget Jump and Panama and stuff,
Yeah.
Me and my buddies would, one of my buddies, Adam, we would get tennis rackets, and those were our guitars, and we'd play that song and some other stuff and put it on little concerts for his parents and shit.
Yeah.
But and I loved I'm talking about the Yankee Rose on his was it like a single
solo? Yeah, his solo EP or whatever. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah,
man. Yeah, and he had on like he's like in a jungle gimmick or something.
Yeah, had a killer band, man. It was Steve Vai and man, just a killer band. So, but yeah. Yeah, it's a good.
And my range is not just the the metal and the rock. Like I guess what would you consider Oasis? Because I really like them too. Would you?
Oh, they were great, man. Yeah, they're rock. Yeah,
but they're not like metal and shit.
No, they're definitely not metal. They're just like straight ahead rock and roll, man.
Yeah,
I like them though. Very good band. Liam Gallagher.
I don't consider Kiss to be metal, even though they look metal. You know,
I think they. I think they are considered that because I think they were such an influence to so many metal bands.
Yeah,
I
like
think
they
is
were
what it
metal
is.
in the 70s and some of the 80s.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
I know what you mean.
I think they were just so influential, like them and Aerosmith and like Zeppelin and Black Sabbath. I mean, honestly, if you took all those, Aerosmith is huge. But I mean, if you took all those bands away, you may not have the 80s music, man. Yeah. You know? Yeah.
I love Aerosmith's one that to me doesn't get enough attention is the Train Keep a Rolling All Night Long.
Yeah.
I love that one, man. I love that one.
My favorite one is Back in the Saddle, where he just like straights up, you know, back in the saddle, my friend. Anyway, he just like screams it, dude, and man.
But so those are some of my ones, man. And I guess, like I said, sometimes I feel like I don't answer the question as they, I interpret it differently. But I hope that's a good answer for them. I think we went off on a pretty good tangent on that.
Totally. And, even though they're frontmen, I think they're also equally incredible vocalists, too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you ever think, like, when you watch, I don't know that you watch because I don't, but I do know what's on there. And I'm not going to say that in the first few seasons, I might not have watched some American Idol and, all these little shows like that. But, man, I feel like the criteria is held a little higher, man, because I think, okay, if Steven Tyler were a nobody and he came on there, would they, give him the buzzer? Or, you know what I'm saying? Like some of these guys, they had their own thing. But do you feel me on this?
I absolutely do feel you. Like, would some of the greatest of all time make it on these shows?
Like if it were now for nobody, you didn't know their name, and that sound of voice, would people go, "Oh God," or would they go, "That's different"?
Yeah. No, I mean, I do feel like those guys would succeed. I mean, like you take like somebody like Robert Plant from Zeppelin. I feel like, they would have succeeded easily. I would say Paul Stanley for sure. He's an incredibly talented singer. Like Freddie Mercury would own the place now if he were doing it. So I mean, in those regards, yes, I do. But I see what you're saying. Like, you try to think of somebody like who's a generational talent, like Bob Dylan. You know what I mean? Or Willie Nelson. Would they make it? Johnny Cash.
Yes, that's who I was fixing to say, because you gotta love it. But at the same time, it's like it really wasn't that great of vocals. You know what I mean? No. I mean George Jones.
Right, George is the GOAT, though. Man. George is the greatest of all time, but he's such a right.
People be like, "What?
What is this? Why is he saying A that long?" Or I went under the table. Like he extends all of his vowels, and that was the worst George Jones ever. But you know what I mean? Like I got it. It was just like, George. I love George. I think George is in my top 5 vocalists of all time personally. But if we're not talking rock and roll, we're just talking music. But George, to me, I totally see what you're saying. Would they, because he's so real country, it's so not what's happening now. Mm-hmm. I mean, like there was a kind of like Chris Stapleton, he's more like a soul singer, really, as far as the new country singers, he's like a soul singer, but you put that with and really, the country and bluegrass, that's like the white man's blues. You know what I'm saying? So like, that's where we came from as far as like our soul, listen to a lot of that stuff, you'll hear a lot of similarities to the old rhythm and blues and old blues. And I'm a nerd about music. You'll have to forgive me.
We all know that. It's all right. It's just all good.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, it's true though, man. Like, would guys like that exist today? And it's hard to tell. You would think that their talent would come through though, but it's hard to tell.
It is. It's just a thought.
Yeah, it's a good thought. It made me talk about 20 minutes. Sorry. So, well, our third and final question of the day is this awesome question. And honestly, we've got quite a few here, but I really just think this is a good one because recently R-Truth's been very popular lately, as popular as he's ever been. So Jeffrey Stevens from Facebook asked this question. Did you ever spend any time with R-Truth? Is he just as funny in real life as he is in TV?
Yeah, man, I ain't seen him since TNA. Since TNA.
But yeah, he's awesome, man. I love that dude. He's cool. I wish we could get him on here, or at least just like to talk to him.
Right, exactly. Just a conversation with him.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but yeah, man, he's a funny dude, and he don't age, and
I know, still in great shape, you know. Yeah,
he reminds me like a Brick House, man, like Brick House until the end. You know, he didn't age, and you know he did his thing and whatnot, but he wasn't like a gym rat,
right?
You know? He just had I forget which morph it's called, endo, whatever, a Brick House morph body type that just is like that, man.
Yeah, just
I
genetically.
Think that's what Ron has.
Yeah, I agree. Very genetically gifted, and you know, it's just funny. This recent, you know, what is it, Elimination Chamber deal, and they had it in Australia, and they shoot a video of him sitting in a car like he showed up in Austria, thinking he was where he was going. That's funny to me, man. I mean, but he's funny all the way around. I mean, how much time did you get to spend with him when you did?
Quite a bit. We hung out a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
Before shows and things like that. But and speaking of Elimination Chamber, I just finished that up. I watched the replay of it this afternoon. I thought it was pretty good. The men's gimmick was good. And
sure.
I'm sorry, man, but I just think God, I might get heat from some people. I don't think I will. But Nia Jax is terrible, I think.
No, you won't get any heat from anybody, I don't think.
And I don't think she's that good. She might be a sweetheart of a girl, but man, to bring Rhea is over as she is to her home, you know, country, and put her against her.
Yeah,
because the only thing that made the match was Rhea. Just looking how she looked.
Right. Yeah,
there was a few decent, you know, little whatevers, but really it was just because she was in her home country, and she looked phenomenal.
Yeah.
You gotta Yeah, she looked great. But,
I think that was like her Hogan Andre. Do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like they just wanted to put her over with this gigantic woman in front of a live crowd, in front of her home audience, you know? Yeah. And I don't know, man. I just think it was
second guess the book and all we want. No, but I get what they did. Like you just said, I kind of, you know, she's this big, and nobody, I think even the heat with the people is kind of real, you know? Because I think they feel like sort of like we do, but it's different nowadays. I don't know how to explain what I'm saying there, but I think the heat's a little bit real. So yeah, who else could they put with her that
right
would have had a totally one-sided, cheering section or whatever?
Exactly. I think that was the truth. I mean, that's just it. But unfortunately, you know, it would have been nice to see her against somebody who could have given her a little more of a match. But you know,
yeah.
Whatever. Nia.
I'm pretty sure you say you ain't watched it yet, so you ought to check it out just so you can confirm my opinion of this match.
Yeah. No, and I mean, that's the only match I haven't watched because, to be honest, brother, I watched it live because I was working on this podcast, right, we're doing right now. So yeah, we, you know, long story short, yeah, that's what's up.
Well, this has not been a short podcast, as
no.
We've kind of put in some time this week. We usually don't go over on our time, but we did today. So hope everybody's still with us, and we appreciate you joining us today for Mr. Tommy Young. And we got some people on the lookout here. We're trying to get arranged and scheduled and all that kind of stuff. A few good ones.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Of course, I don't think I would book anybody on here that wasn't a good one.
Right.
But, or I didn't think was going to be a good one.
Exactly. Yeah.
So at any rate, folks, we are going to check out, and we'll catch you next week.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Jimmy Street and the Plastic Chic, Jared, are the undisputed tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise. This team does it all, and all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
That's right, it's the Talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Boudica and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
So that was another great episode. Hey, Wolfie, tell them where they can find you on social media.
Jimmy, they can find me in the club, bottle full of bub. I'm just kidding. They can find me on Facebook. My personal page is Warren Wolf, WOLFE. I'm on Instagram at Warren Wolf 13.
You can always find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Live Wolfie D. Here's the thing. Wolfie always has offers for his autographed photos. He has a selection of some awesome photos from throughout his career that he will autograph and personalize any way that you want him to. Just contact him either directly at his personal Facebook page or through any one of our other pages, and we'll make sure you get in contact directly with Wolfie. Get those photos, right, Wolfie?
Yeah, I've got some good stuff on there, to help with the podcast.
Folks, if you can't get out to a show to meet Wolfie D, there's nothing like that, especially for the fans of PG-13 and Wolfie D. And before we go, you can always find me, your host, Jimmy Street, at James Rock Street on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
And hey, Jimmy, before we go real quick, I just want to add in there, from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate, first of all, the work you've done for this podcast. You have worked your butt off. Secondly, the people that are liking the page. Beyond that, even more, is the people that are listening, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and remember, guys, the podcast drops a new episode every Monday at noon, and our past episodes are streaming now on demand on all major podcast formats. Thanks again.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap
for your dome.
And here we go. The original white boy that came out sagging, not bragging, don't be hating, cause I'm spitting the truth. Still livin' in color. From Rush, your mother, utilize a hubcap, unlike any other. Back in the day, I was NOD, and I was P to the G, plus the 1 and the 3. In case you forgot, they call me Wolfie D. Been cloned and copied so many times, tired of suckers taking credit for what is mine. You know who you are without me name dropping. Wrestling's first white boy coming out hip hop. Been doing it like this since '92. Laid low for a while and you thought I was through. Listen real close to these rhymes that I've injected. This shit's so sick it makes your ears get infected. Mad skills, no faking, there is no one great. Cause I'm bringing more folks than Obi-Wan or Vader. Not here to play games, so you better beware. You don't like me, so what? I really don't care. Like time I keep ticking and I can't be stopped. You sucker step to the side unless you wanna get dropped. With my finish, I'll straight knock you out. Please allow me to tell you what it's all about. Gonna wind it up, then I'm driving it home. It's Wolfie D, baby. I got a cap for your dome. I got a cap for your dome.
He got a cap for your dome. He got a cap for your dome.
This has been a James Rock Street production.